तो भाई इसके साथ एक सेकेंड फैसेट में आते हैं जो इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट है एन एंटरप्रेन्योर्स लाइफ और ए फाउंडर्स लाइफ. आज mCaffeine में हम कितने लोग हो गए?
अबाउट 350.
350. जब अपन मिले थे कितने लोग थे?
5 लोग.
5-6 लोग. अब जर्नी फ्रॉम 5 to 350 also meant that hiring and the right type of hiring is extremely important. Because उसी से आपका नेक्स्ट लेवल ऑफ टीम बैठता है, L1, L2, L3, उसी से आपका नेक्स्ट लेवल ऑफ लीडरशिप बैठता है. अब बहुत आसान है लोगों को कहने के लिए भाई कि हायर स्मार्टर देन यू, हायर ब्राइटर देन यू, हायर हंग्रियर देन यू, हायर चैंपियंस. लेकिन यार जो फाउंडर का शिद्दत है वो फाउंडर का शिद्दत है, जो फाउंडर का जुनून है वो फाउंडर का जुनून है, जो फाउंडर का पागलपंती है फाउंडर का पागलपंती है. आई पर्सनली बिलीव भाई the closest to successful replacement of founder mindset that you can get to in your L1s, L2s is if the passion is somewhat similar, if the madness is somewhat similar. On certain aspects, they might be smarter than you, but overall, if their intelligence is somewhat closer, है ना भाई? My question therefore to you, to advise a lot of our viewers that when you look at hiring, अगर हम ये सब ब्यूटीफुल जो कहावत जो फ्लोट करता रहता है इसको हटा के प्रैक्टिकलिटी में आए, what are the qualities of hiring the right people? Number one, where do you see the green stones to say कि ये these are absolute ticks in the boxes and we should go across and have that? Is it the DNA? Is it the fabric? Is it that end-to-end vision? Is it holistically a package of multiple things? And parallelly, भाई, what are the red flags? टू से कि यार ये बंदा शायद या बंदी शायद बहुत ज़्यादा रेज्यूमे के हिसाब से बोलो, स्टोरी के हिसाब से बोलो, पैकेज के हिसाब से बोलो, दे लुक अमेजिंग इन टर्म्स ऑफ एवरीथिंग, बट कहीं ना कहीं एक बहुत बड़ा रेड फ्लैग है. तो इरिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ द पैकेज ऑफ हाउ दे आर लुकिंग एट प्रेजेंटिंग, वी विल नॉट गो क्रॉस एंड टेक दिस पर्सन ऑन आवर रोल्स बिकॉज ऑफ रॉन्ग हायर कैन क्रिएट, होता है ना शीशे के दरार मिटते नहीं है भाई. तो यू डोंट वांट दैट कल्चरल दरार कमिंग इन बिकॉज ऑफ रॉन्ग हायर्स. So, to deep dive and go a little granular, bhai, take us through your journey of, and I know you spend a lot of time in hiring, Tarun spends a lot of time in hiring, both of you have, emphasized a lot of times publicly also that hiring is extremely important in any founder's life. So, bhai, how does the hiring mindset evolve? What are the things that you have looked at as a founder? What are the things that you think are an absolute go versus an absolute no-go?
Right. So, the most important thing that I feel is the diversity should be there. There's no, what you call, team which does not have a variety of people. So obviously there is a sandbox in which you want everybody. You don't want people out of the sandbox.
Diversity of gender, diversity of character, diversity of mindset, or combination of everything?
Basically everything, right? You need different kinds of people. So for example, for example, gender diversity and stuff, these are very, what you call, factual and very, very objective. This should be there. But even more than that, there should be diversity of personalities. There should be diversity of work cultures and so on. Now, for example, in a startup ecosystem, the fundamental requirement is, one of the strict guardrails is people should be okay with working outside their comfort zone, which I define as hustle. As the important hustle of sorts. You get out of your comfort zone, you should be able to do things, because startup में आपके पास उतना बड़ा ecosystem नहीं होगा. A large company can give you so many resources, ways and stuff. So that is basically hustle. You just need to structure that hustle, put it together.
Define comfort zone a bit more. Go a little more granular. Is it only time? Is it only vertical? Is it beyond all of that? What is comfort zone according to you?
So what is basically a startup? A startup is an entity which cannot shield you from uncertainties, right? So the quantum of uncertainties in startup is way, way, way beyond than an established system per se. That's the fundamental definition of a startup. I don't say that. Because frankly speaking, even at our size and stuff, there are established companies of this size, right? But we still call ourselves a startup, which we are. At the same time, there are companies which would have slightly fewer people, but it's an industry and it's a business. It's an established business.
हम अभी भी हमने आपको startup ही बुलाते हैं भाई. At Vertices, we are still a startup.
which is the perfect way, right? And because
I call it the David syndrome.
so
I'll explain to you what a David syndrome is.
Okay.
I call it a David syndrome, but go ahead.
So little bit of pity for your people as well, because they are handling the uncertainty.
Bilkul.
But
Because we are creating the certainty.
correct. And so that's the part of it. So the level of uncertainty that comes in with the startup, and part of that uncertainty is because your ambitions are somewhere else, right? It's not that you want to stabilize here, you want to achieve something else. And again, the path to that will, bring in a lot of uncertainty. So people will have to deal with that. And a lot of people, great people, great, knowledgeable, structured, systematic people, they are not tuned to handling uncertainty. They thrive in an ecosystem that if they are given certainty, they can achieve way bigger. And this is nothing about good, bad or whatever. It's just that
They need that stable structure.
they need a stable structure, and maybe they can do much better, bigger jobs than some of these other people who actually thrive in that unstructured system, and they can deal with those uncertainties and things that happen along the way. In our case, that is absolutely critical, and there has to be an ability to hustle through it, which is basically deal with that uncertainty.
Right.
Then basically, people need to figure out a way how to coexist.
Okay.
Now, in this pursuit, and that's what you call the culture fit of sorts, right? So, culture fit is not about your how do you behave, or how do you party, or how do you gel. It's basically how do you adapt to other people in the system along with you. How much space do you need from them? How much space do you give them? How do you gel along? How do you work along? Because what will happen is, in this fast growing ecosystem, these definitions of teams and what roles and what tasks people have to do, it's a part of that uncertainty, right? That also will keep along. So not only people will have to what you call reorganize themselves mentally, and the challenges that come up from over a period of time, it will also be different people. You have to coordinate with different entities, structure different entities. Most often than not, you will actually be working with a lot more inexperienced folks, because that's what a startup is.
True.
Right? Fundamentally, we are building things for the first time. How do you work with them? How do you build them across? Right? How do you allow somebody else to build you up? So those are the very, very critical guardrails. So by the way, Tarun does spend a lot of time on hiring, and he's very, very meticulous about putting effort and time onto some of those things. And
What are the red flags?
very difficult to judge people that ways, right? So I'll tell you some of the things that
Any instance भाई जहाँ पे ऐसा हुआ कि यार लगा कि यार तोप है,
right.
और कुछ ऐसा सिचुएशन या ऐसा साइन आया जहाँ पे बोला irrespective of being तोप हमारे सिस्टम में नहीं फिट होगा.
So people who cannot challenge the system are a big red flag for the startup, where people say yes to everything.
So you don't want yes men around you.
You don't want yes men around you.
You want people to go across and stand up and say शायद ये गलत है, इस तरीके से भी हो सकता है.
Correct. At the same time, you want people that
How do you calibrate that where the person does not overstep the boundary?
so very difficult, right? It's basically it's a sixth sense that you develop after talking to so many people, and you have your mental benchmarking. So it's a little bit of both ways. You want that that people you should be able to challenge those people. People should not have that my way or the highway kind of a thing. At the same time, they should be able to say and come up and tell you that, Vikas, yeah, sahi nahi soch rahe ho. Let me tell you a better way. Why don't we think along these lines, right?
So that also is a stakeholder mindset.
It's a stakeholder mindset. So you want people who are stakeholders. That's an absolute necessity overall.
बहुत ज़रूरी है.
What is it?
तो आपको एक इंस्टेंस बताता हूँ as to why I say that DNA and fabric matters the most, है ना? Our journey has been similar. You've seen us literally from the time when we were 4-5 people to where now we have grown to about 80 odd people. You've seen us from that 450 square foot office to where today Vertices is 3 offices, including a beautiful office in your beautiful city of Bangalore, or Bengaluru, as whichever way you nowadays you all refer to it. Beach mein na bhai, when everyone was going through the situation of COVID, right? God's been kind with us. God's been kind with us because nobody in the ecosystem of Vertices faced a personal loss. That itself, I think, was a very big essence of gratitude. Everything else though is secondary, because सब कुछ आप फिर से rebuild कर सकते हो. That you can't, right? But as we were growing during that point of time, I remember very clearly, बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे आ रहे थे different types of conversation करने के लिए, and different people wanting to join. I still remember one very interesting episode that had happened. So there was this one partner from a law firm, and I don't want to take names, but young partner, he approached saying that he is very inclined to join us. He had a book, let's take the example just for example sake, कि भाई उसके पास 3 करोड़ का बुक था. बोला भाई if I join the platform, ये 3 का मैं 10 करोड़ बना सकता हूँ. आप लोगों ने यार कुछ ढंग का मचाया हुआ है, कुछ कर रहे हो आप लोग, सो कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग हो सकता है. तो हम सोच रहे थे, समझ रहे थे. अब बातों बातों में ही वॉज आस्किंग कि भाई फर्म का स्ट्रक्चर क्या है. उस टाइम पे हम थे करीब अराउंड 40, 45, 50 लोग. तो जब ब्रेकअप हुआ, उस ब्रेकअप में पता चला कि भाई अबाउट 40 लोगों के बीच में अगर पकड़ लो आप कि 30 ऑड होगा लॉयर्स, 10 ऑड होगा नॉन लॉयर्स, है ना. तो उसका पहला क्वेश्चन था वाई 10. तो हमने बोला कि भाई कुछ ऑफिस बॉयज़ है, कुछ स्टाफ है, कुछ एडमिन है, कुछ अकाउंट्स है, कुछ ये है, फ्रंट डेस्क है. तो यार इन सबको फायर कर दो. ऐसे अच्छा क्यों भाई. तो बोला कि यार आपका ऑफिस अभी खुल नहीं रहा है, सब कोई ऑफिस बंद है, वर्क फ्रॉम होम है, लॉकडाउन है, ये है, कोई ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. क्या करोगे आप ऑफिस बॉय, फ्रंट डेस्क, फलाना ढिमकाना लेके. फायर देम एंड इट सेव्स यू एंड स्ट्रेट अवे इम्पैक्ट्स द बॉटम लाइन. सो मेरे को ना बहुत हंसी आई उसमें इंटरनली, कि मुझे लगा कि अगर मुझे कभी उस हिसाब से बॉटम लाइन के हिसाब से इम्पैक्ट करना है, सो आई वुड नॉट डिडक्ट 50,000 रुपीज़ फ्रॉम लेट्स से अ पार्टनर, जिसके लिए दैट रियली वुडंट मैटर बिकॉज इट्स पिटन्स. बट हिज व्यू इज़ टू से कि यार वो 15-20 हज़ार, 18,000, 25,000 वाला जो ऑफिस स्टाफ है उसको आप फायर कर लो, जिसके शायद उस 20,000 रुपये में 4 लोग 5 लोगों का फैमिली चल रहा है. सो आवर इंटरनल कोर, जब हमारा को फाउंडर्स का मीटिंग हुआ, सो वी वर स्माइलिंग अबाउट दिस, वे वी सेड कि इस बंदे का अगर 30 करोड़ का भी बुक होता ना भाई, सो वी वुड नॉट टेक दैट पर्सन. सो वी विद हाथ जोड़ के हमने बोला वी आर नॉट गुड इनफ फॉर यू, सो दैट कैन नॉट हैपन. व्हाई आई से दिस भाई इज इट गोज बैक टू द DNA, it goes back to fabric, it goes back to essence of that culture, that fitment, कि अगर वो आपका गलत हो गया तो धीरे धीरे सारे जगह पे ना आपके दरारें शुरू हो जाएंगे and you'll never be able to create an organization, you'll never be able to create an institution. So for me DNA matters a lot.
I remember having this conversation with you during COVID, and I was very hesitant in sharing with you that we are not firing a single person, everybody is in there, with it. And then you said कि नहीं हम लोग भी किसी को फायर है. हम लाइक चलो ठीक है, that's a better world
That's a better world
because
अगर काटना है तो खुद के पेट काटेंगे ना.